Omaha podcast is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors. Pella of Omaha and Lincoln wants every homeowner to have the best quality windows and doors, and they're willing to bet $100 on it. Call the Omaha and Lincoln showroom or go to PellaOmaha.com to find out how you can get $100 and new windows and doors starting at $122 a month. It's PellaOmaha.com. And we're brought to you by the Brickway Cut Spike Lucky Bucket family. Amazing distillery and brewery. Go check them out. They're in the Omaha, La Vista area, 4 blocks south of 120th and Giles. I saw one of our friends, Adam Prosco, this weekend. He was like, you and Bill really like that whiskey. I was like, how dare you even question whether or not we like that whiskey?
How dare you?
We had double-digit old-fashioned. We were just passing out old-fashions like they're Halloween candy to people.
It was smooth as silk. It was
smooth.
really good.
So good. So, yes, we do really like the whiskey. Brickway Cut Spike, Lucky Bucket family. Shouts out to them. And we're brought to you by Peerless Energy Systems, Solaire, authorized distributor for Nebraska and Iowa for any and all air compressor needs. Go to peerlessenergy.com. We are here. It is Rutgers week, my friend. And you know what I want to start with today?
Talk to me.
Now, there's always like a thought of, do you want to go to the club early? You want to go to the club late? You need to make sure the club gets some people in it. I kind of want to go to the club right away.
I think let's be first in tonight.
First in the club.
Let the party come to us.
Because clearly, ultimately, one of my, as I learned in making content, one of my favorite boss, my favorite boss, Dave Tepper, amazing for radio at 1620. He's now still in Denver, I think, but he's like, you gotta make content for the people. Again, what do they want? Clearly, this club thing has struck a chord with people.
Yes.
I mean, I was in Shoot 360 last night. I had a dad come up and was like, so who's in the club this week?
Who's in the club?
So last week it was Dylan Raiola, Bullock, Ty Robinson, Isaiah Nair, and Isaac Gifford. Is that who you have?
Yep.
I had at the Gourmet Grill, the Polar Bear, Jamal Banks. Now this might have been me. Butler was in an Uber, wasn't he?
I had Butler.
You and I are always conflicted on Butler.
Butler was in an Uber.
Who else did you have at the Gourmet Grill? Am I missing anybody? Did we have Barney?
We had Barney.
We had Raiden there.
We had Raiden, Fedoni, Banks, Tommy, and Polar Bear at the Gourmet Grill getting gyros.
And Ubers, we had Bryce Binhart in a
Uber XL, DoorDash, Jimmy Dante Dowdell and Ramir. We also threw in Ubers, and Carter Nelson was he was in the, I think, still in the pickup line for an Uber from the last.
So he was on our radar.
He was on our radar. He hasn't been picked up yet, but he's in the pickup line.
I did have a great suggestion. I had some woman on Twitter tweeted at me and said, I think you should have Screech be the Uber driver just to tie in all of the...
Yep. Okay. Yep. There you go.
Okay. So this week...
I think we should do in order, like who's in the club first,
okay,
second, third, right?
Love it.
Yep.
Dylan Raiola.
Dylan's in the club first. First person in through the door. There's nobody else in. It's an empty club right now, but Dylan would be the first person through.
I'm going to do Bullock at number 2.
I think that was my big takeaway for this week was if there is going to be a second through the door, sorry Ty, sorry Gifford, sorry anybody else. I think right now, other than Dylan Raiola, John Bullock is playing the best football on the team. He's playing the best football consistently.
I don't think it's particularly close.
That's the part that's kind of crazy is he separated himself this last week.
I mean, he leads the team in tackles. He leads he leads the team in TFLs.
I would say he's knocked down a bunch of passes.
He's got a pick 6.
Yeah.
He's got the one strip. He forced Rule explained this, and he forced the pick 6. Tommy's pick 6 apparently hit
a good drop.
Bullock dropped into where Shedeur wanted to go, which caused him to throw out. So forced is a strong word, but nevertheless, like he's playing at a crazy high level.
Good, like fourth and short, third and short. Like he had some really good physical stops and key plays too. So he's just been consistently good every game, and he's made some splash plays. He's been a pleasant surprise from the get-go, and I think he's earned that second spot behind Dylan.
I think the reality is, I think it's those two guys, and there's almost like the club within the club. Like there's a different like VIP section. Like I think there's Dylan.
They're going upstairs.
They're going upstairs to like the top spot where they're on the balcony looking down on people with their own area. Like they got the VIP like catered. We've been to
bottles. It's the full deal.
People, there are levels to. You can go in the club and you may have there's a difference between having a table and a table.
Yeah.
They got like the spot.
Yeah, I'm with that.
Third,
I stay with Ty.
I do
think he made a couple of nice plays, a couple of splashes, but he's still the biggest presence left out there right now. I feel like.
I think, yes, I think some of this stuff is relative to how what you expected from them going into it. You know, he's still playing good football, and he's still one of those guys. Like, just picture this in your mind: Ty Robinson isn't going to play against Rutgers. You go, uh-oh.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
That's not good. So I think I'm with you. Dylan, Bullock, Ty. Now, here's where things get interesting. At 4, I think I'm going to put Nair at 4.
Are
you sticking Southeast Night? Or is there a new
Nick, I think I'm going to bring somebody that was at the Gourmet Grill just eating a gyro, not gyros, gyros. I think it's electric in there right now, Nick. Raiden's going in to the 4th spot, Nick. What do you think about that?
I wrote that after I wrote my 5. I said, in all reality, Barney should 100% be in the club.
I think he's in. I think he's in that next spot. I think he's the guy. I mean, Nair has been good, but I don't know why. I feel like right now, if you just say like, we got Banks. I think if you just say
that's the
Banks, Banks is the kind of the. It's interesting because like Banks and Nair are kind of like
they're pretty much
two peas in a pod. But I mean, Barney is the guy that's like he's our in between guy. Kind of he runs, he catches, he returns. He's flashed. He scored some nice He scored a nice long touchdown. Had a couple different good runs. I feel like he may have just earned himself in the club. I don't know why. I feel like better about putting him at the 4 than Nair. Maybe I'm wrong there.
No, I mean I think the jet sweep game with him. One of the things I want to talk about later on, if we get to it, I hope we can. I think one of the reasons Barney is so important is Nebraska's running back run game right now is okay.
Yeah.
Like I was looking at some numbers here. Against the power conference teams, the running backs are rushing for 3.8 yards per carry and about 95 yards per game. Like, not horrible, not great.
Yeah.
They rushed for 116 yards against Colorado, 89 yards against Illinois, and 80 yards against Purdue. I guess what I'm saying is Barney's giving them another way to get rushing yards, and he's giving them the perimeter, like getting out on the edge run game.
So Nair, we're doing Nair a disservice in this moment, right? So I'm admitting that I'm doing him a disservice, but I kind of can because Banks and him sort of they take away from each other. I totally feel you on that. We're kind of in this weird world of if Banks didn't exist, I feel like we'd be more appreciative of Nair. Or vice versa. We'd probably, Nair would probably make the club. We'd feel like, well, what if we lost Nair? That's how we'd feel about it.
Right.
But I don't know. I just feel like Barney has flashed so much. Our man Raiden is just, he scored, and I'm just like, I'm screaming at the TV.
Me too.
Raiden,
But he doesn't, if you look at, what's weird is it is so game to game with, I'm trying to look at what the exact stats are. Nair has 17 catches for 291 yards and 4 touchdowns. Banks has 20 catches for 252 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like they both draw PIs. They both make big boy catches. They make in traffic catches. They're very similar.
Yeah.
So
What's Raiden's season stats? Maybe
Raiden. Well, yeah, I will say this. I looked it up. Raiden's season stats were not as good as I thought. Now, here's Raiden's rushing stats. Raiden on the season, 7 carries, 104 yards. He's averaging almost 15 yards a carry right now, and he scored 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
He's got 16 catches for 121 yards.
So he is the like total yard leader between those 3. So I think it's roughly fair because he's had such a good he's done such a good job running the ball, right? So in this weird way, if you took away Banks or you took away Nair, I would put the other one over. But in this case, I feel like I can like sneak Raiden in just off of like the excitement and effect he's had in the last couple weeks. So I think he has the club. Other than those right now, those top 3, it's very fluid. To me, it's almost game to game.
Yep.
You got to earn the right to stay in the club. And I feel like
I like it. I think I like it.
Raiden gave us 2 big ones in a row, and Nair's been decent for him in the last 2, where I feel like Raiden just has played a little bit better the last
I'm with you. I think because I wrote it down. Like, I think it was one of those things that it was like, I thought it, but I didn't know if we were ready to go there with it.
Yeah, I mean, Banks has 20. So Banks
has the most catches
for 252. I guess Nair has 291.
And Nair's got 4 touchdowns,
and he's got 4 touchdowns. Where
Nair and Banks are excellent.
Yeah. So no, I mean, I guess total yards, it's still Nair.
Okay, as we're just going all over the map here.
Yeah, we are.
I could argue, this is massively disrespectful to 2 defensive guys, one of which we already have in the club. I could argue the club should be Dylan Raiola, Bullock, Raiden, Banks, and Nair. I could argue those 5 guys have been the 5 most consistent, most impactful dudes on the team. Is that wildly disrespectful to Ty? Even though Gifford's our guy, I don't
forget Colorado. Like,
True.
You're forgetting Colorado, where we were just
running. I mean,
so good on defense.
And I mean, Colorado murdered Central Florida, and had the win over Baylor. Like, all of a sudden, Colorado's like
that. I mean, that's a good offense.
You walked away from that game thinking like, man, did Nebraska maybe just kind of beat up on a crappy team? I don't think so.
At least that offense.
Their offense is legit.
Points.
I mean, Travis Hunter's the best player in the country right now.
Yeah, and Shedeur just like, she's a good quarterback.
Yes.
So like, I don't want to underestimate like this. It has been a defensive team.
Yes,
it still is a defensive team. We have Dylan, and I think these receivers are good. I maybe am catching the. I may be on a heater with Barney right now, and I may have over-indexed for him this week, but I think it's a fallacy to put 3 like
that's
we're not
the problem.
Tearing people up with like we got Dylan who's really making these guys look good too, but I do think Barney is just giving us the X factor of run and catch and return guy. Like, so I don't know, there's something about him that is I'm really enjoying his competitiveness, and I think Nair and Banks, who deservedly are huge upgrades at receiver, are just like one hair less than I want to see in terms of like being dominant, or almost like they don't feel like they're dominant. They feel like they're pretty good. Mm-hmm. And I feel like to be in the club, you got to be electric or you got to be dominant. And I feel like Barney is just giving me a little bit of electricity. So I'm kind of giving him a special run at the club this week.
I like it. I'm with it.
But to me, he's a short-term notice club. Like, hey, quick in, quick out.
Yes. I mean, you could be at the Gourmet Grill or even in an Uber before you know it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we're pretty quick.
Okay, so then the question is, Dylan, Bullock, Ty, Barney, who's the 5th guy?
Well, this is hard because Gifford's been a mainstay, and we love our Knights, but we've been given sway to the defense.
Which, by the way, the defensive stats are way better than you think they are. Not you. I mean, you being like the collective you. I mean, they're 9th in the country in total defense. Like, this is still a defense that is performing at a relatively high level.
I mean, let's look at Gifford. 24 tackles. I mean, 3rd in the team. Bayer's got 26. Singleton 24, Hartzog 18, Buford 14, Tommy. I'm just going through the stats right now. I mean,
is there a world? Do we need to do as much as
Bullock is just so clear, and Ty is the physical presence. It's just hard. Nobody else has really jumped off the page this year, and that's the problem.
It is weird. Like the defense is played collectively relatively good.
Yeah,
and I mean they've been at a top 15 total defense, whatever. But it really feels like Bullock has really played well. And we know what Ty kind of brings, and he's but I don't know if anyone else in particular's played at
Okay, so I think that's our telling. Like, we feel like there's nobody that stood out enough. And to be in the club,
you got to stand
we're kind of front runners a little bit in the club. We like shiny shiny things at the club. Maybe this is the time where one of those receivers gets in.
Here's the thing. I think the club represents a little bit of
there's a recency bias.
There's a
right?
There's the whole thing like, man, what are we gonna? You're only as good as your last game. It's like, well, at the club, you kind of are like that's kind of what this is.
Unless you're right now, so like right now, like Dylan and Ty have been like
mainstays.
Bullock is becoming a mainstay. But like, if you don't splash for a couple weeks, you slowly work. We check it, and so
then the question is, do you want Nair or Banks? I think I want Nair, even though it's literally like I don't care.
I think Nair's had the 4 touchdowns. I think we go Nair.
Okay.
And we make it an offensive club.
I mean, it's been a
defensive club, and now we're going offensive.
Okay.
I think we send Gifford politely because he's a Knight. Maybe we take it. We say, hey, go to Yaya's. Have a
go across the street. Get a
Yaya's.
slice.
You're going to be back here next week.
We got a craft beer for you.
Yeah,
and you're gonna. We have a Brickway. We have a Brickway.
Get him a
or
Brickway
Lucky
bourbon.
Bucket.
Yeah.
Oktoberfest for you. And a slice of za, and you're going to be fine. So, okay, so then the Gourmet Grill is the Gourmet Grill / Yaya's.
Gourmet Grill and Yaya's
is Gifford, Banks, and the Polar Bear.
Banks, Gifford, Polar Bear,
and then
Tommy.
I said I have Tommy is still at the Gourmet Grill. I said he was doing the Screech sprain dance. Remember when Screech did the sprain?
Yeah, it was a big hit.
It's great. I think Tommy Hill right now is doing the sprain.
Fedoni, Hall of Fame, or is he in an Uber?
Fedoni kind of feels like he's starting to catch his stride a little bit, doesn't it?
He is in the Hall of Fame.
What's his? Okay, we just had his stats. Let me pull up his stats. What's Fedoni working with?
Fedoni
11 catches, 112 yards. Good blocker. He's in the Hall of Fame.
No touchdowns though. So production, but not.
So do you want to keep him at the Gourmet Grill, or you want to Uber him?
Here's what I'd say. It's a tough crowd right now. We promoted a receiver. I think Banks is first in. Probably in the club. For Gourmet Grill Yaya's, it's probably Gifford and Banks are the first in.
Mm-hmm.
I think Fedoni goes. I think we put him in the Uber.
So we got Gifford, Banks, Polar Bear, Tommy Hill at the Gourmet Grill. In an Uber, we have Fedoni. I said I want to put Dowdell, Ramir, and Emmett Johnson all in a tiny Uber.
Same tiny Uber.
We are in an Uber. It's not a great Uber. Okay.
I thought the same thought.
I wrote it down like this.
I said they got to be in the same Uber.
So they're in the same Uber. One of them's got to get in the front. Like Emmett Johnson's right now having to get in the front seat with the driver, with Screech.
And Screech is talking to him
and just rapping to him. And it's like, oh my God.
And can't you say on your Uber pickup, like, I don't want conversation?
That. I like you can do your prep, your conversation and your temperature. So I like it quiet and cool.
What if we did this? Because we want to force one of these guys to separate. We make this 3-person Uber. It's really hot. We preset it for him. It's hot, and the driver's going to talk a lot.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. Preset. So they're in an Uber that is hot and talkative. That's going to motivate them to get the hell out of that Uber.
Someone's got to separate. We need to see separation.
Somebody's going to get the hell out of that Uber.
I like it.
Jamari Butler. I said I had him in an Uber XL, but I mean, do we need to?
So we got Butler, Benhart, all the running backs and Fedoni in Ubers right now, and I still have Hartzog in a stinky Uber. I don't know why we did that. Why did we do that to Hartzog?
Because why did we give that?
We've been kind of
why have we been mean to?
I know why, because the safeties had a bad game against Illinois.
They did.
And so
Singleton had a bad game.
It was more
too.
Singleton than Hartzog.
I don't know why
Hartzog is getting mistreated because of his teammates' play. But
I mean, Stephen A. Smith was like, Malcolm Hartzog.
Okay,
let's be clear. That was an embarrassment at the safety position, and I know a thing or two about that. Like, that's how he was.
Yeah, even though you were
Even though I love Malcolm Hartzog, I was at his wedding. I was his best man. I have been with him every single day. We have bunk beds at home. I let him have the top bunk. But Malcolm Hartzog...
Isn't it amazing he can say that? He can say something critical, yet he says, I'm your best friend.
He's the king of that. He's like, first and foremost, let me just say that I love Kevin Durant like a brother. He is without question one of the 20 greatest players to ever grace this beautiful earth that we live in. But that was an embarrassment. Like, it's like, whoa. So that we're kind of doing that with Hartzog. I really like the club this week. Dylan Raiola, John Bullock, Ty Robinson, Ja'Cory Barney, and Isaiah mother effing Nair.
I think here's what's nice about it, right? We have had a defensive club. I think we started doing this last year. Was that last year, or has it been 2
I don't even know anymore.
It's been a year or two at least of the club, and it's always been just defensive players, basically. And
it's a defensive-led team, but these guys are like, Barney is a star, and he's popping, and Dylan is popping. And, you know, like,
it's funny, even though the offense didn't have a great week, we made the change. But like,
I mean,
it's funny because like the defense has given us more. But the film now, and it's like in less. There's been less separation in my mind.
I think
the defense
right now is like the 04 Pistons, like where it's like the team, like it's like the team is the star.
Yeah.
You know, like there's not like a super duper. Like the offense has more, and the offense is by nature going to just pop more. But it's like Banks, Nair, Barney, and Dylan Raiola are really exciting football players that are all having good seasons, and they're popping.
Yeah, I think individually they are playing well. And we were kind of hinting at Nair and Banks kind of canceling themselves, but I think it's funny as we went down farther. It felt weird leaving them out compared to somebody in defense.
I guess that's what it feels for as much as I love Gifford.
They're less replaceable. Even as a pair, Banks and Nair are less replaceable than like a defensive player.
It just feels. I mean, just point blank. It just feels like Banks or Nair or Barney deserve to be in the club over Gifford right now.
Yeah, I mean, Tommy made a quick jump to the club, but his performance against Illinois, we rewatched that film, and he was
you and Stu.
Yeah, and he was hurt. Like, I mean, he was hurt from the minute he was out there.
So, I'm glad. I was like, something's wrong.
He cost us the touchdown to start the game, gave him a bunch of, and then he like stayed out there for another quarter and a half.
Yeah,
where he gave up a couple first downs because he just couldn't even move. And to me, it was a little bit of like one of those, like, I don't know if you're trying to be tough, but like you were so hurt you couldn't even play. Like that position isn't like tough it out. It's like, if you can't run at DB, you can't play. It's not like a lineman with a hurt knee.
Right.
You got to get out of the game.
It is weird because, I mean, you've dealt with it, I'm sure. Like, injuries are weird. Like, you do got to have some toughness to play through things. But there does hit that point where, like, you're hurting your team to try to be tough.
And he crossed the line. He crossed that line where
and I've only had one. Have you ever had a moment like that? Like, where I've only had one time where I literally was like, I feel like I tried to play, and Coach Altman just took me out.
I can't.
I was having back spasms at Oral Roberts. It was bracket buster my senior year. I had horrible back spasms, was laying on the plane, and like I tried to play. I came off a curl to like 14 feet. And when I say I shot a 14-footer, 6 feet.
Yeah.
Like, I think people were like, was it a dump pat? Like, what was he doing? And like, I couldn't move.
Yeah.
And you had to, I mean, it was like, you know, coach was like, just shut her down. I mean,
now that you say that, I'm thinking of high school. I had a broken arm.
Yeah.
I tried to play with a broken arm, took the cast off and tried to do it. And like, it was one of those,
was
like
it Millard West?
Yeah. You tried to go and like, when you realize you truly you can't touch anything in your arm because it's like the weight bearing bone. It's you're like you can't do it, right? Yeah. And you just realize
but Tommy was like that in Illinois.
Yeah, he couldn't move. Like you could see he couldn't pivot, he couldn't turn the way he wanted to turn.
Right.
And he was just like, it was too bad because he really had an unbelievable start to the season, Well,
hopefully, like I've said, I dealt with plantar fasciitis. Like hopefully the thing that you just need to stay off of it.
Yeah, you do.
So hopefully he's ready to go. All right, you feel good about the club?
Feel good about the club.
I feel really good. Literally, next week, who knows?
Well, you saw what happened this week. Having
Barney's in there.
Barney and Nair both in this week.
And Gifford's out, and Banks is knocking on the door.
Yeah,
and
Tommy's out. Yeah, the fact that Raiden jumped Nair, and then Nair I kind of felt like was not going to be in, then we re-put Nair in.
Yeah. So that's kind of how this thing can go.
This club is fun.
The club is fantastic. Okay. Hit me on Twitter at Nick Bahe. Any thoughts you have on the club and during the game? I love it.
I wish I could see your Twitter during the game.
I almost need to give you my login and so you can see this. It's just hilarious.
Oh,
it's absolutely hilarious.
It's so fun because I know what I'm saying and watching. I'm saying all the stuff.
Can I? Okay, let me transition to this. I feel like we're treating something almost like it's a no-hitter and you don't want to talk about it because you don't want to jinx it. That's coming up next. How about that? How about that? Call me Mike Greenberg with that tease. Tell you about Pella Windows and Doors. I just love it when people come to me and not only talk about the club, but they talk about, hey, I saw your Pella TV commercial. It is great because I love the people at Pella and I love the windows and front door that they put in my home. And Debbie and Vince and the crew help me find the perfect fit for our home during our free in-home consultation. We visited the showroom to view the our options, ensure our selections were the perfect choice. And man, the installation experts were impressive. They were on time and professional. They're courteous, and they left our house cleaner than they found it. Call the Omaha or Lincoln showroom. Go to PellaOmaha.com. You can do either of those things to find out how you can get $100 and new windows and doors starting at $122 a month. That's PellaOmaha.com. Okay, my friend. I got you. Look at you. You were looking at me. You are looking at me. I got you. I got you wherever. I could lead you over here. I could lead you over here.
I don't think people understand how little you tell me before I do these. I don't know what's coming ever. It's actually funner just to not know.
I know.
I don't know.
Usually there's certain things I will be be prepared for. Yeah, this or something like that. But for the most part, I kind of like you to just react.
I'm just well, okay.
And I've really built this up into something that's way more. But have we talked about Nebraska is +5 in the turnover margin? It almost feels like everybody's just don't talk about it. I know. I see it too. Nebraska's not turning the ball over. I see it. Have we? But can we? Just for a second, we're not going to jinx it. Can we talk about, this has been the biggest thing that has plagued Nebraska for 15 years, and it certainly was the biggest thing that was hurting Nebraska a season ago.
Yeah.
Nebraska a season ago was defined by two things: turnovers and terrible quarterback play.
That's right.
This season, they have excellent quarterback play, and the turnover margin is pretty impressive. Think about Nebraska, they have one fumble, and it was Dowdell's on the second drive of the game against UTEP.
Yep.
And the two interceptions were
completions wrestled away.
Fluky.
Yeah.
Nebraska's defense has 8 takeaways, 5 interceptions, including not one, but 2 pick sixes, and they forced 3 fumbles.
Yeah.
I don't have anything more to add other than have we talked about it enough? Does it feel is turnovers one of those things you only really want to talk about it until it's when it's bad?
No, I think it's,
or is it what we said earlier of it's not completed until it's completed?
Yeah, I think there's 2 parts. One, I think if you look at our record 4-1, that's a big reason. It's a big reason we have won 4. Is we just simply have done a better job than our opponents of taking care of the football, right? Dylan is the X factor in all of that. He's controlling things. And man, it gives you a chance to win every game if you can do it, pretty much.
Yeah.
And so but like we have not made it through a season, right? And this is Big Ten play has now started, right? So we are 2 games in, right? So I think these next 2 games, right? So it's 2 games in 3 weeks, are going to define the season. In not speaking
that way, because it's true.
Not just the record standpoint, but like in how we feel about things like the turnovers. I think it's going to the tail, like the painting, is a full canvas. By the end of that, I feel like most of the painting will be done after those 2 games.
I
Even
agree.
though it's like a whole another half of the season kind of to finish with. But I feel like that story will be written by that point almost.
So you're saying, because I think these next, we said this stretch, the Illinois, Purdue, Rutgers, Indiana, and now so you're 1-1, beat Purdue, lost to Illinois. Here comes these next 2 games feel like, and we love to do this from the outside, like this is going to define the season. Whereas players, you don't really think about, like, you know what? Hey, Billy, this next 2 games are going to really define the season. You're just playing each game, right? Yeah. But like, I think it's true, and I think one of the reasons I've wanted to kind of start talking about it more is because it's like these games are stacking up where like they're not turning it over and they're taking the ball away.
Yeah.
And it's just, we wondered whether or not Dylan Raiola was the silver bullet to kill this, or no, we said Valerian Steel to slay the turnover dragon, whatever it is. No, it was Dragon Glass. Someone tweeted at me. He's like, it's right? That... I can't remember. Some with Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones seems like it's too long ago now.
One of the best breakfasts of all time. Vegas. Me and you. Do you remember that?
Yes.
We talked about it was the big battle.
Yeah.
It was great.
The White Walkers.
It was great. But it does feel like a lot of this is Dylan Raiola.
It's hard not to see that, like, that guy, the amount of good decisions he makes versus bad decisions. It's like, remember, like we had to find that one, like the one bad play he made last week, because we're like, there's just not that many of them.
And honestly, sometimes it feels like we have to force bringing those up just to try to prove that like
he's not doing most things.
It's almost like you don't want to be, you're like a head coach and you want to prove that you're not playing a favorite, and you want to yell at like Michael Jordan, like, hey, Michael, just, well, it's like swing at the Paxson.
The standards are just higher, right? So when Michael messes up, it's like he made like 15 shots in a row. And he's like, that was a bad shot though, Michael, the last one. So it's like, it's good to coach him up some, but like everybody knows, like you probably don't even need to do that.
No,
it's like the standard is just so much higher that like you nitpick with the really good ones.
Now it does feel like there's been Lady Luck on his shoulder a couple of times. The one touchdown to Ramir at the end of the first half. And then he straight up dropped against Illinois in the second half. He had a series where he put the ball on the carpet 2 times.
Yeah.
And somehow he got it. He got it back one time, and then one of Ben Scott or somebody recovered it the second time. So he's gotten some fortunate bounces. But man, I wanted to. We sit here and we talk about the turnover margin thing. It's like, man, they're +5. And really, when you think about their turnovers, one fumble forever ago.
It should be +7. I mean, it really should.
It should be.
And then we're not going to play.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
I'm not going to play
back to if game prison.
I'm not going to.
You ever wonder if that touchdown wouldn't have gotten ripped away?
Nick,
I got to do it.
We're all if game recovering.
Yeah, we're on probation. We're like, if you get out, you're on probation. We're meeting with our probation officer. Like, so have you been watching Nebraska football? I'd be like, yeah, I have.
I haven't ifed once in 6 months, and I think every day I feel very fortunate for that.
And Nick, I'm here looking at your Twitter and.
Oh, don't look at that. That was just a joke. That wasn't a real if.
We are monitoring this.
That was not a real if.
You in the first half of the Purdue game, I don't know why the cop had the list as well. You tweeted, if Thomas Fidoni's penalty doesn't happen, Nebraska wins 66-0.
I did not. No, I swear. That was just a joke. My roommate texted that. Whoops.
What you don't understand is we have access to your deleted tweets. I'm looking at this one here.
Oh, no.
Lisp guy, can you read it? Yes, I would be glad to read that for you. Seriously, guys, if Nebraska had an all-American field goal kicker, they would be the number one team in the country and would beat Georgia's ass. Okay, I don't know.
I love it. We're recovering, Nick. We are recovering ifaholics, though. We are. It's hard not to.
Well, we are.
Because I was going to say, if Nair would have not. If Nair doesn't get that ripped away, do we beat Illinois?
I think it's.
I'm just saying, as a recovering ifaholic, I had to div one more.
Or if Dylan hits Lyndon does an overtime. All right, we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it. Okay. You want another stat? You want me to just butter you up with a stat? You want me to take you a Texas Roadhouse roll, put a little cinnamon butter on that thing, boy? Yep. You hate on Texas Roadhouse. If I took your ass to Texas Roadhouse, you would be eating good in the neighborhood.
I would go with you.
Would you go? Yeah. If I said, hey, next Thursday, do you want to go eat at Texas Roadhouse with me? Would you go?
I would go. But I'd laugh about it because I just know that it's a Nick Bahe staple.
Let me. So you are a Texas Roadhouse roll. This stat is just going to put some cinnamon butter on it. You're just terrific.
When's the last time you've been to Texas Roadhouse?
Like physically in it?
In it. Used to be a regular.
I took the kids once. I mean, why do you every time I take my kids to a sit-down restaurant, the funniest thing I ever saw on Twitter or Instagram or something was like, you know how a Jackass skits start? You'd be like, I'm Johnny Knoxville, and this is pool ball in the balls. You know, and it's like someone like it should be. It should literally be like, you know, I'm Johnny Knoxville. This is taking my kids to a sit down restaurant, and it's just terrible.
Yeah,
they're knocking over things. They're screaming. They don't like.
You're not having a good time.
No.
So for sure,
I don't know what it is.
You know what it is? It's you say you did it. Look, we did this. But nobody's enjoying it.
It's horrible.
Nobody's enjoying it. They just like the kids aren't really enjoing it. They're just because they don't know what's going on. They have to behave. They don't want to behave.
God. A couple of, maybe so this Marvin wasn't born yet. So it was maybe 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I took Mac and Mava to Texas Roadhouse.
Okay. It was just.
It was a great meal. It just was a horrible experience because of my children.
Those darn pesky kids.
I love the name. I'm Johnny Knoxville.
This is taking your kids to dinner.
All parents understand what that feeling is.
This is taking your kid to a sit-down dinner.
This is taking your kid. I'm Nick Bahe. This is taking my 3 kids, all under the age of 8, 1's in diapers, to a sit-down restaurant. And it's just like then, you know, milk going everywhere, screaming. It's just horrible.
I'm Johnny Knoxville. This is, what'd you say? This is
pool ball in the balls. And it's like, all right, do it, Steve-O.
In the balls.
That's right. Like,
that's your nightmare, though. Those guys is your nightmare.
You walk around like they do, like they're pranks. They're doing all like
slap you, and you're gonna be like,
I'm not gonna.
You could never be comfortable.
No, I'm not.
Oh, that's your nightmare.
But I do enjoy. Like, I bet if you and I sat down and turned on the Jackass movie, we would laugh really hard.
It is funny. I think it's funny, but I do think about you and how much you go. I'm not
one of those guys. I don't like getting practical jokes. I feel terrible about doing a practical joke to somebody else, and like,
nature.
Not my nature at all. Okay, so
where were we?
I said I was buttering you up like a texture. So there are only 2 power conference football teams in all of college football to not give up a rushing touchdown on the season. One is Iowa. You know who the other one is?
If I say Rutgers, I have not been buttered correctly.
It's Nebraska.
Wow.
How about that?
Not bad.
How about that? I mean, 5 games in, no rushing touchdowns.
So Illinois was all their.
Yeah, they hit
play action passes in the goal line.
They hit Refrigerator Perry. They hit the fake fullback.
And they hit the
Tommy Hill. I don't know what happened to him. Yeah. And then there was one more. Are we missing one?
They would have scored
31.
Overtime was another play action to the tight end.
Yes, there was another play action to the tight end.
28, yep.
About that. That's pretty good.
Not bad.
Okay, before we get to the Rutgers thing, I got 2 more things. This is now going to be like Michael Jordan's made 14 straight field goals. Now we're going to be complaining about this shot selection on the 15th. I want to have a general discussion about Dylan Raiola underthrowing a lot of deep balls. Now, some of them I understand are back shoulder fades, like so that that's kind of where they're supposed to be. But like, you don't see him like. There's not a lot of like. Think of all of his deep balls; they're all kind of like a little underthrown.
Hanging
they're
out.
hanging. That's how, luckily he's getting a lot of pass interferences out of them.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of like the Jalen Lloyd one, where he gets it ripped from him. That ball was, Lloyd's out in front of him. Just kind of interesting. I think like there's more even on the bone there where guys are like Nair and Banks have like beat guys.
Yeah.
I think that's, and I know he's got the arm for it.
I think that's one like to monitor, like, okay, I've noticed something, but is this just like circumstances or is he going to always do this? You know what I'm saying?
I know
like,
I guess that's what I don't know. I'm not necessarily trying to like conjure up something, but it's just like, I don't know. I mean,
guess I like that didn't really occur to me, so I guess I didn't really notice.
It just you're getting PIs out of it or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been more this season. I don't know. Get somebody, Mike Babcock, someone on this for stats of like, I can't imagine there's ever been a season where Nebraska's wide receivers have drawn more pass interferences in. It's like has to be a season record.
I want to know the total penalties this year compared to other years, like
that
on us against us. Like it feels like it's just
crazy
penalties.
It's crazy to me. Last one. Biggest concern, excluding special teams. Biggest concern for the football team. Not necessarily Rutgers specific, but more just like you're looking at Nebraska. Biggest concern, and you have to exclude the catastrophe that is special teams at this point.
Can we protect Dylan Raiola against good Big Ten teams?
Okay.
Offensive line. Can the offensive line protect Dylan?
You know what's interesting is outside of the overtime, they've done a pretty good job.
Pretty good.
But I think if I'm trying to connect like what you're saying is like if they can do that.
I saw a flash of like weakness from our team. Like in that moment, I was like, whoa, we reverted to something.
Right.
We sort of shorted up against Purdue, but like it got me kind of on alert. Like this is how you lose football games is you can't protect your guy in the second half when like you need to go get one. We had to go get something there and we like fell apart real quick.
Great call. I hadn't really thought of that, or I shouldn't say I hadn't thought of that. It didn't like, it
didn't jump out to you. Quite
didn't
like
jump.
That.
I mean, just because for the most part they've like he's not been sacked very much.
Yeah, that's why it's I'm.
But you're right in that Colorado their pass rush, Northern Iowa, UTEP, Illinois got to them when it mattered, and then Purdue. Purdue fired their offensive coordinator after this game. Purdue was kind of a mess.
Yeah. How about you? What did you see?
To me, it's can Nebraska run the ball against Big Ten teams with their running backs?
So the opposite basically is can they run it?
So maybe it's the O line like.
But can you run it to me very different than can you protect? I think
yes.
Can you run it is can we impose our will? Where can you protect is basically like give Dylan a chance. All we're trying to do is let this guy do his thing, and then it's on Dylan. But I think those are actually very different in the sense of
they are because I think I am so confident in Dylan that if you can say, oh, Dylan's going to have time the rest of the year, Nebraska's going to a bowl game.
Yeah. But it's almost like if you can run it, it will in its own way, like
lighten the burden.
Yeah, it will lighten the burden. Like, but if we can't run it, or we just continue to run it kind of how we've been running it. So then to me, it's a little bit more like we're going to be in games. They're going to have to protect him.
I just wonder when Nebraska needs to be able to run the ball 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, like can you hand the ball to Dowdell? They're all in an Uber right now.
Who's it going to be?
That would be mine.
Okay.
Can Nebraska run the ball with their running backs?
Got it.
Okay, Rutgers preview, and then we're out of here. We're trending nicely time-wise. Okay. So again, Rutgers went to a bowl last year. They were 7-6. They won their first bowl game in a decade, beating Miami in the Pinstripe Bowl. Greg Schiano is a good coach, man, and that like he's been there, done that. He's coached for a long time. So I have a lot of respect for the dudes that have stood the test of time. Like, those guys know what they're doing. Like, old boy from Northern Iowa.
Yeah,
that guy's like.
Yeah, Coach Farley. He's been around a long time, but same way like Schiano. I mean, he was coaching the pros years ago for Tampa.
Right.
I mean, he had a great program going at Rutgers before the pros. He put a lot of guys in the NFL when Rutgers had historically never put in a lot of guys in the NFL. So like he's been a good coach for a long time, and his team's rolling in at 4-0.
4-0.
Yeah.
They returned the Big Ten leading rusher and Kyle Monangai, who rushed for over 1,200 yards a year ago, and he is rolling again this year. Yeah. Not sure if you've watched him. He's pretty good. He's not like a Leonard Fournette, Adrian Peterson, but he's. I liked how Ruud described him. He said he's like the Matrix. It's hard to he's a hard guy to squarely hit.
Yeah.
Fifth nationally in rushing yards. He's got 589 yards on the season, 6 touchdowns. He's averaging 6.1 yards per carry. They're 4-0. They beat Akron and Howard, but they beat Virginia Tech, who almost should have probably. I mean, that Hail Mary was like a little. They almost beat Miami, who's a top 10 team in the country, and then they beat Washington in a weird game where Washington had all these yards but kept shooting themselves in the foot. Yeah. But Rutgers won the game.
That's telling, though. That means they're fighters. They'll fight and eke out games. So
yes, they have the Minnesota transfer Cal Kamanis at quarterback, who's solid.
He beat us.
He's solid, right?
He beat our guys.
He's a lot like Altmaier.
Yeah.
Like, just not great, not a huge.
Tall. He's a tall guy.
More mobile than you think. But he's not, he's not Michael Vick out there. Not a huge arm, but capable. He's thrown for 761 yards, 61% completion, 7 touchdowns, 1 pick on the season.
He's a guy that he's not the guy that scares me the most, but he's not a bad player. Like he'll deliver if somebody's open, and he can turn and run.
Yeah.
And he's played us before. I think actually twice now, because I think you're right. He came in that one of those shortened years where Tanner Morgan got hurt. He came in.
You're right.
And guess what happened?
Yeah.
They beat us. They won. He beat us twice now.
Right.
So twice.
I want to say it might have been Ty. Maybe it was Ben Stilley. Like, knocked Morgan out right at the end of the first quarter or into the second quarter.
Yep. And we had all the momentum.
All the juice. I have this. And then
they were snapping the ball with no time on the clock.
Yeah.
They were, they were depleted, and we blew that one.
But so Cal Kamanis is capable. Very capable.
Yeah.
Couple of other just stats. Rutgers, Greg Schiano, over his time at Rutgers, blocks a lot of kicks. I want to say over the course of his time, Sean Callahan had the tweet. It was like he's got over 70 blocked kicks in totality in his time there. Like, it's kind of like a thing that he's been known for at Rutgers. They only have 4 sacks all season, and me likey that.
That's good,
because if Dylan's jersey is nice and Tide commercial, Dylan, did you play? Played Rutgers, Mom.
Yeah, I did, but we played Rutgers.
That's so stupid. You play on turf too, so it's not like you're gonna, but still.
Yeah, you get those. You
rubber.
You get the rubbers all
rubbers on your face. Yeah, that's always good. Only 4 sacks on the season. Penalties. Rutgers, 11th nationally in fewest penalties per game at 4 penalties a game. Nebraska ranks 124th in the country at 8.8 penalties per game. Now, I know if Matt Rule was in here, he would say, wow, what a cool podcast place. And then he would say, guys, the officiating's been terrible.
See, I'm going to demonstrate how I do this. And you take his headset.
Just throw it down.
That's after you've gotten about 5 bad calls.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, he's trying to make a statement. I get it. I don't want to make excuses because, come on, just don't get penalties by throwing stuff. Just control yourself.
Control yourself. Don't. A lot of the personal foul stuff in the Illinois game was real. false start. They false started on 4th and 1 with Harburg. They false started on 3rd and short on the,
Yeah.
I don't think the officiating's been great, but I don't want to act like, people are like, the biggest crimes against humanity are as follows.
Hey, Lisp guy, you're back.
Big Ten officials versus Nebraska so far through the 2024 season. That ranks the number one. I mean, come on. Let's stop it here. But penalties could be big. Both teams have been solid in the turnover margin department, what we've talked about. Rutgers has only lost 2 turnovers all season. Nebraska only 3. Nebraska's +5 in the turnover margin. Rutgers +3 in the turnover margin. So Rutgers is very much your classic Big Ten team. They're going to try and, I think against Virginia Tech, they doubled them up in time of possession. Like they're going to hold the ball. They want to run Monangai. They're pretty solid in special teams. They don't beat themselves with penalties and all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Couple of keys for me are this game's fairly straightforward. Got to slow down Monangai.
Yeah.
Your biggest concern, continue to give him time. Rutgers only 4 sacks on the year. If you give that dude time, it's supposed to be another, if I'm not mistaken, it's supposed to be another nice day of weather, I want to say. Like, I think it's going to be 80 and sunny again. I mean, it sounds like Dylan's ready to let it rip. And then for me, this game feels like just, penalties will be big, but then for some reason, knowing Greg Schiano's history with special teams, avoid the catastrophic special teams play.
That's a good call.
You're very lucky in the block field goals. And some of Bushini's sneaky the best tackler in the world.
Yeah.
But those didn't turn into.
Did we give up a kick return to them a couple years ago?
Yes.
Why does that feel like that was
Crookshank? Yes. Yeah. A couple of years ago. Yes.
Yeah.
There was. So for me, I wrote down a blocked field goal, a blocked punt, or a punt return or kickoff return that's either for a touchdown or sets up a touchdown.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. That's a good call. I mean, it seems like this team is classic. We want to run it, we want to control it, we want to play good defense and special teams, no penalties, win a game.
That's kind of what
what they want to do. And
right.
Okay.
And to me, as long as you don't you don't have a penalty fest and you don't have one, just that catastrophic special teams play.
Yeah, and it sounds like this is going to be the Black Shirts' second, return test of can we stop the run in the Big Ten? We showed it last week, we could. Was that just the Purdue's terribleness?
Yeah.
Or this is probably a better actual test?
I think it probably. I mean, you're talking about he's 5th in the country. In rushing. He led the Big Ten in rushing a year ago.
No fluke.
It's not a fluke. Okay, and. So I'm totally with you. This game is I'm very, very excited to see how the D-line and the defense stops the run.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But to me, slow down an guy, give Dylan time to throw, no catastrophic special teams plays. You do those things. I feel good about Nebraska in this. I think Nebraska's rush defense has a good day. I think Dylan has another good day.
Yeah. The
spread is Nebraska's favored by 7. The total's 40 and a half in that area. I think Nebraska's going to win. I have them winning 24-20. I think they win. I feel pretty good about it.
I would say we're going to win. I don't have a good sense of it's going to be wow, we came out running and gunning and it's going to be a win by double digits, or if this is going to be grinder central, right? So I don't have a good feel. I haven't got to really watch Rutgers this year, but I do think we'll win one way or the other. I just don't know what
the game's gonna the complexion of the game. Yeah, I could see this. Could this be one of those 13-10 games, or could it? It could be. Yeah. But I think I just think clearly what they need to run. They need a run game.
Yeah,
and I think if Polar Bear treats one guy like one of those seals and knocks him off an iceberg and then just...
You ever seen those things stop?
That's crazy. Yeah. It's intense. We Nebraska needs Polar Bear to they get him to National Geographic the best of polar bears hunting Kyle Monangai.
This is Nash Hutmacher coming down from the plains of South Dakota. Look at him see that seal and he is going to pounce soon.
Dude, that's someone needs to get him that. If you do that,
he might get back in the club.
He might get back in the club, Doc.
Just one seal clubbing, and he's in.
He's back in it. But at this point, Barney's in there doing the Harlem Shake, the Dougie. He's doing
the
it all.
electric slide.
He's doing the electric slide. That's even better. That's even better. Okay. Anything else? Do we need to? We're late. We have our probation game.
Oh,
probation
I got
officer.
A
We have a
good
meeting.
if for you right
No, we got a meeting.
I got
No.
a good if for you.
A Hurrdat Sports Network production.